Okay, so now we want to move, create a bunch of stories. Right now, with the building footprint the way it is, we actually need 15 stories. So what we want to do is figure out how to do that. And we're going to use the function, we've used it before, geometry translate. So if I was to go over to our screen here, I'm under geometry and then modifiers and then geometry again. And then I'm going down to translate. And I'm in the coordinate, the X, Y, and Z coordinate system of translating. So I'll click that. So now we can move it in any direction we want. We're really just going to need to move it in the Z direction. So I'm going to take that geometry and let's zoom out here a little bit so I can grab that geometry again. So there's that solid. I'm going to plug that geometry in. And I'm going to move this color block down because obviously we want that now to be this geometry. So it'll come back green. And I'm going to turn the preview off of the geometry translate. So it turns back to green. And now we can just experiment with this. Let's do a code block which creates a series because we want to make multiple copies of it. And we're going to do it in the Z direction. So I'm going to start with a code block. And I'm going to go from, let me just zoom in here. We're going to go from 0, ... to, let's just try number of stories. So we have that reference. And we'll go in increments of that 15 feet that I was talking about. And I'll hit the semicolon and we're done. And that's not allowing us to put that in as a variable. I was hoping that would. So I'll just put that in as an X. It's still errored out. Hold on a second. I probably have, oh, I know. Excuse me. Let me undo that. I don't have ... Oh, good. So we can now input number of stories in. And we have that up here as the integer value. And so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take the integer now, which will be the number of stories. And actually, I'll change this math floor because it's a little bit confusing. Let me rename it. Because floor means the floor, the bottom of whatever number it is. So if it's 5.63, the bottom is 5. So this is number of stories. All right, and we'll plug that into the Z translation. And now we have a list of 2. Let me see what's going on here. We have 15. So what we probably have is a list problem. Let me go ahead and look at this list. This is only the number of 15. So we're going from 0 to 15. Oh, I know what we need to do. It needs to be 12 feet times the number of stories. Or is that 15? We want to move 15 feet. Sorry, there we go. All right, so now we have, let's go ahead and I'm going to hit escape and zoom out here. And we probably have an error. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have 16 stories. And that's because we're starting off at 0. So let's see if we start off at, and we want to start off at 0. So we really want this to be the number of stories less 1. Because we have that 0 value. So I'm going to do number of stories minus 1. All right, so you can look at that whole definition now. And I'm going to go ahead and count those. I'll hit pause so you don't have to listen to me count. And so that adds up to that 15 stories. So I did count it without torturing you with me counting. And so now I really want to take a few minutes and start to get things a little bit more organized here. So we've got this idea that we created our surface by patch, surface at a parameter point. All of these things are probably could be in one group. Pull this back. And now this is actually the building of the building. geometry translate, and we finally give it a color. And so let's say we take all of this rectangle by width and length. Well, actually, just before that, we'll go. I'll grab all of these things right here. I'll group those. And we'll give it a different color. And I'll double click on this and I'll call it build floors. All right, and let's just go ahead now and actually kind of exercise this a little bit. The building width is at its max. As I get narrower and narrower, we get more and more stories. So actually, I may want to change this building width. Let's say we change this to 100. And so we can come down with really low stories. So we go to a minimum of 2 stories, and we go up to a minimum of, actually if we have 0, we actually should never have 0, because that'll cause an error. So I'm going to go in here and actually just type a 1 in here so we never get below that with the building width. All right, so now anytime, now you'll notice how the building, as it gets taller, the floor plates get smaller, and the look at the offset is automatically changing with that. And now no matter where we put that building on the site, we're never going to go outside of our perimeter. So no matter how our volumes change here, we're always going to stay in our property line. So I think that's really, it was a lot of work, I'm sure, and torturous. But I think that's really a powerful way of understanding how computational design can actually solve, well, I guess the first part of it is just a very trivial problem, but an important one, how to just automatically adjust the location and number of stories of your building and stay within the site parameters. So next we'll start looking at that idea of creating our buildings around here so that we can start thinking about our view sheds and whether we have good views or blocked views.